So are you able to see the slide now?
Yes, sir.
Fine. So today there is one topic in Unit 3, that is pedagogical practices and principles in literature. So in this we will discuss that how we can use literature as an effective tool to teach language, or how to teach literature in the class. That way you can also understand it. So we are just mixing two disciplines. We are mixing, one is pedagogy, that is language teaching, and we are mixing literature. Because if anyone raises the question that there is a Shakespearean sonnet, shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Now, where can I use this sonnet, shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Or what is the benefit it will get to me as a language learner? So that answer must be ready, that how language uh, is resourceful in teaching language. So for that particular purpose, and considering that we have this topic, pedagogical practices and principles in literature. So bending of pragmatics and literary stylistics. So this is pragmatics. You already know like what is pragmatics, that we have language in use, and literary stylistics, that is you have literature, and how you can apply linguistic approaches, linguistic theories, linguistic methods to analyze that literature. And once you analyze that particular thing, then is there any possibility that you can use that particular text as a language resource? So pragmatics is an aspect of the study of language in use, and literary stylistic is the study of how close attention to language use can contribute to accounts of how texts are understood and evaluated. And we already know that stylistics is an interdisciplinary enterprise which involves applying ideas from linguistics in the study of how texts are produced, understood, and evaluated. So this is a fine blending that we have, that we try to make, or we try to make literature useful in our language class. That is basically the purpose. So previously I also discussed like how a sentence like I can hear you, or a sentence like John hit Mary, or she is a pillar of the community, or speech is silver but silence is golden. How you can take these examples, how can you take these sentences into your class? So I can hear you is a sentence you use as an utterance in your day-to-day communication as well. Similarly, John hit Mary, or she is a pillar of the community, anything. So how you can take these sentences, how you can take these instances of language use into the class to teach something about language. So that is basically the purpose. That is basically the purpose of this unit, particularly pedagogical practices and principles in literature. So we start with this example, and previously I have also I have stated that when it comes to a sentence in pure linguistics, a sentence is the largest unit, and we study a sentence in syntax. But what is beyond sentence? Because uh, once you teach someone how to speak or how to use language, then it is not like one sentence you are using. You are actually using a discourse. And when we use language, then basically we are using language in some context, in some meaningful situations. So that means that language use is creating a discourse. And linguistically, if we try to highlight this, then we know that a unit larger than a sentence is a discourse if uh, two sentences, even if we are using, they are interlinked or interrelated to each other. So we have here only two sentences, and these two sentences I have taken from the book titled Cohesion in English by Halliday and Hassan. And again, this this you can also take as an example to teach students something that is related to language. So what are the things that you can teach from wash and core six apples and put them in a bowl? Now we can teach that how cohesive relations are found across sentence boundary. What is the relationship between an anaphora and antecedent? You can also teach like what is the or what type of sentence is a subject-less sentence in the English language. So all such things you can take into consideration, and you can take that particular text in the class. Here this is not a literary text, but we will see that how you can take a literary text also into the class and teach students something that is related to the language. So here there are other issues as well, like the use of coordination, like wash and core. Fine. So that coordination uh, you can also teach your students. Then lots of things like in a bowl. Now in a bowl is working as an adverbial here. So you can also change in a bowl, or you can also substitute in a bowl with there. So you can say like wash and core six apples, put them there. So a text, even if it is one sentence, even if it is let's say two sentence, that can be used very effectively in the class, and particularly from literature. For example, even if you take this first line, shall I compare thee to a summer's day, uh, from this Shakespearean sonnet, then again you can teach like why it is shall, why it is not will, why Shakespeare is not saying will I compare thee to a summer's day. And you can also teach like what type of question is this, like it is not an inquiry. Generally we raise a question to our audience and we seek a reply, but here Shakespeare is not seeking a reply. Shakespeare is simply saying shall I compare thee to a summer's day. So there is no reply from the audience. That means this is not an inquiry type question, but it is a rhetorical question. And generally, in a rhetorical question, the person who raises the question, the person provides the answer as well. So that type of thing you need to find out. Uh, let's say you can also take into consideration vocabulary items like, okay, I will take 4 lines, and these 4 lines I will teach certain words to my students. So vocabulary item you can teach to your students. At the same time, you can also teach grammatical structure to your students. Let's say wash and core six apples, put them in a bowl. Now here we have a very clear imperative type sentences. So you can take into consideration different types of sentences like declarative sentence, imperative sentence, exclamative sentence with you, and you can make a difference like how a declarative sentence is different from imperative sentence, how an imperative sentence is different from an exclamative sentence, how exclamative sentence is different from interrogative sentence. So that type of thing you can also take or teach to your students. So this one instance previously I have also discussed, and here I am also taking that this will also become like the starting of the novel titled Mrs. Dalloway by Virginia Woolf. And you can take like these 5 lines in the class, and you can tell students so many things related to language. So here I repeat once again, Mrs. Dalloway said she would buy the flowers herself. Now the one thing is like what type of narration is this? Mrs. Dalloway said she would buy the flower herself. So this is a direct indirect narration. This type of starting is like we have Mrs. Dalloway said something, and what she said, she would buy the flower herself. For Lucy had her work cut out for her. The doors would be taken off their hinges. Rumpelmayer's men were coming, and then, thought Clarissa Dalloway, what a morning fresh, as if issued to children on a beach. So, as if is a hypothetical, like when you use as if, then a hypothetical thing. And if you want to highlight hypothetical thing, then you use past tense. For example, I wish I were you. So I cannot be you technically, you cannot be me technically. So let's say when someone, I wish I were there. So I'm using I were. Generally you use I was, but you are not using I was. You are using I wish I were there. So when you have a hypothetical situation, then you use this type of like with I you use this plural past tense. So similarly, as if is also a hypothetical situation issued to children on a bench. So this type of thing you can also take into the class. Then how discourse functions in a text, like what are the discourse markers that you have in this sentence. So if you look it closely, if you analyze this sentence closely, then you will find and then. There is a starting like and then. Now and then is not like we are using simply like that. It's not the case. Very carefully chosen because we want to show a continuity in the narration. And then this type of thing. And then thought Clarissa Dalloway, what a morning. Fine. So all these things happened. Like first thing happened, like Mrs. Dalloway said she would buy the flowers herself. This is one thing. For Lucy had her work cut out for her. That means like what is the consequence of that decision, that I would go and buy flower myself? That Lucy had her work cut out for her. The doors would be taken off their hinges. Rumpelmayer's men were coming. So these are instances like this, and then. And then, so like all such things are there. And then thought Clarissa Dalloway, what a morning. So this thing is in the mind, like what a morning, fresh, as if issued to children on a bench. So this thing is happening in the mind, like it's not happening like someone is saying to somebody. Like Mrs. Dalloway said, that means like Mrs. Dalloway is saying it to Lucy that okay, you need not to go, I would buy the flowers myself. So that type of thing that we have. And these type of things you can take into the class. And you can teach students like how language works. So this is also creating a discourse, because here we have more than one sentence. And linguistically, as we know that if we have more than one sentence, then it is creating a discourse, provided both the sentences are interdependent or linked to each other. And here you find like the sentences, they are linked to each other. So again, like previously I have discussed, so I will not go into detail. Otherwise, the instances of anaphora, instances of antecedent, then why at some place it is like the surname is used with the title, and at some place like the first name is used only. So that type of thing we have already discussed, so I will not go into the detail. But again, this type of thing, why first name, why name with the title, and other things, these type of things, they are dependent upon the role of old and new information. So you provide one information at the first time, it is a new information, but when that information is once provided, it becomes old. So next time you can't provide the same information, with same expression. That is also a limitation of a writer. So if writer is using again and again Mrs. Dalloway, then obviously you will find bit odd that okay, in the first line the writer has used Mrs. Dalloway, and in the fourth line again writer is using Mrs. Dalloway. So here the change of expression as well. So Mrs. Dalloway said, when Mrs. Dalloway said, that means Mrs. Dalloway is saying this thing to Lucy. So we want to have a contrast between the social class of Mrs. Dalloway and Lucy. That's why we do not have any salutation for Lucy. So that means like we know Mrs. Dalloway is like the master and Lucy is the maid. So that's why that title, that salutation is fine. But Clarissa Dalloway thought. So someone who is thinking about something, then the person will not use title like now Mrs. Clarissa Dalloway thought. It is a bit odd. You are thinking, so you will also think in the first person. You will also think of like I thought. That sort of thing is there. So that's why Clarissa Dalloway is used. So both these aspects are there, like to change of expression, and all these things writer takes into consideration once write. Then this I have, I don't know whether I have previously discussed or not, but again, this slide also highlights the role of old and new information. So a little girl went for a walk in the park. So like you have taken these two sentences with you, like three sentences we have in the class, and these sentences are quite easy. Like a little girl went for a walk in the park. So again, you do not know the name of the girl. Fine, you do not know any other detail about the girl. It's like a little girl. Now, you do not know a little girl, but you have some concept associated with this expression, a little girl, and then you read it as a new information. While there, now there is like a substitute, an adverbial that you are using for in the park, that is there. So this is again like the new information you are providing, but you do not want to use the same expression, you don't want to repeat the same expression. So that's why you are not using in the park, but you are using there. She saw a rabbit. So again, a pronoun, that is a substitution of noun, a rabbit, and then since it was injured, she took it home. So again, like it was injured and she took it home. So again, like in this sentence you can see like it, and you can also explain to your students that when we use it pronoun, then at subject position and the object position you have the same usage. Like it remains it in the subject position, it remains it in the object position as well. But when it comes to she, then she is the subject, but object is her. And but her can also be used as a possessive, like her book. You can say her book, and you can say John loves her, then her is the possessive. But that is not the case with he. Like he and the objective is him, but the possessive is his. So that type of like a pronoun table you can create, and you can tell like, okay, uh, you have she and her is used as a possessive, her is used as an objective. But when it comes to pronoun he, you have different marker, that is him is for objective and his is for the possessive. So that type of thing that you need to discover on your own. Now what is the use of since here? Like what is the purpose of using or starting the third sentence with since it was injured? Fine. So what it shows, like what is the meaning of since here? So that thing also you can highlight. So that type of usages, that type of structure, grammatical structure, you can give them, give your students this type of template. Okay, the same template you need to follow, but you need to make a different story. So they will write like, in place of a little girl, they will write like a little dog. Then obviously little dog cannot went for a walk in the park, so you will need to change it. So that type of thing student will use, like what type of expressions will go with what type of grammatical structure. So that way it will also create a challenge for your students, and they will also create something new. So it's not the case like they will also only see that, okay, she means this, her means this, it means this, but they will also create their own text. So that is again the use, like or you take, let's say, Shakespearean sonnet, the first line, shall I compare thee to a summer's day, and you give your students the task that change three words and say something new. Fine. Or change four words and say something new. So there is a possibility that they will say like, shall I compare you with with spring's morning, with a spring's morning, with a wintry night. So any type of expression they can use. So this will create a creativity in your students. So that type of thing, and particularly why to take literature into the class, because with literature you have more possibilities, but you need to find out what more possibilities I have. Then this is another example, like topic, like what is the role of a topic in a sentence, and how to identify a topic. So a topic corresponds to what a sentence or a portion of the discourse is about. So once you have a topic, then this topic talks about a discourse. So once upon a time there was a merchant with two sons. Like, so this is the topic. Like, most important information in the first sentence is not once upon a time. Once upon a time is a routine. Important information is there was a merchant, there were then two sons. So these two information that you have, so this becomes the topic, though they are not coming in the first. Generally something that is a topic comes in the first place, but here you have the topic that is coming in the last, because the informative part is only this: a merchant and two sons. The older son wanted to be a scholar. So now we are talking about these sons. We are leaving aside a merchant. He spent his time reading and studying. So again, like, we are continuing with the older son. As for the younger son, he preferred to travel and see the world. So again, like, this is how we are continuing. So we are continuing, like, in the first sentence, we have two topics: a merchant and two sons. Then out of two, again, we are not talking about the two sons at the same time. Like, we are talking about one by one. So first we are taking into consideration the older son. Then we are saying something about older son in the third as well. And in the fourth sentence, we take into consideration the younger son. And then we are continuing with the discourse. So this is like topic corresponds to what a sentence or a portion of the discourse is about. So if I ask, okay, these out of these, let's say, four sentences, so what this discourse is about, you will say this discourse is about a merchant and his two sons, the younger son and the elder son. Or if you simply say this discourse is about merchant and his two sons, that is also sufficient. That means you have understood the discourse. So that type of thing is there, that how something is developing. So this is a very much a part of narrativity, that you can see very very clearly, that how unfolding of the narration is creating a discourse. And then this is something, I think, how literary text works, we have discussed previously as well. And we have discussed that how context is important in order to find out the meaning of a text, and how knowable context is known as discourse, according to Bakhtin. And Bakhtin says that it is a concrete living totality. Then this particular sentence is quite important, and this 6 words, they are creating a text, and particularly a literary text, because these 6 words by Ernest Hemingway, they are creating a story. For sale, baby shoes never worn. So, like, what is the story behind this? For sale, baby shoes never worn. So that means, like, parents, they bought shoes for their baby, and the baby is born dead. That's why the shoes were never worn. So that possibility is there. So again, there is a tragedy in these 6 lines: for sale. So once, like, what will happen to those baby shoes when they were not worn by anybody? So there is like a resale of those shoes. So similarly, for sale, baby shoes never worn, it's creating a story, though there are only 6 words, but they are creating a story. So if someone reads these words carefully, then the person will understand the story behind these words. And Not only that, but we find economy principle and the iceberg theory also associated with these 6 words.